on sixpence, there go.
Hello. Today I'm going to do a lesson on how to play the guitar with a cello bow. If you like the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So off the top of my head, I can only think of a few different examples where a guitar is being played with the cello bow. One is Dazed and Confused by Led Zeppelin, and the other two are by Radiohead. One being the Pyramid Song, and the other being Burn the Witch, where in the live versions they're performed with Johnny being on the cello bow. So I'm going to go over two different ways of doing this. One being the way Johnny does it, which is the more traditional way of holding a cello bow, and the other way being the way I did it, which is just a more casual, loose, unconventional way of holding the cello bow. So one of the first things I actually learned is that you have to apply something called rosin for the cello bow to actually work. So I got this rosin, it's called Dark Premium Rosin by D'Addario. I'll link it in the description below. So this is what it looks like, and how you're gonna apply it is you're gonna start from the bottom of the bow, and then you're gonna apply a solid bit of pressure, and then you're just gonna, in a straight line, just wick it to the top of the bow, like that. Now, something that I had trouble with initially when I got the rosin is that I had to be kind of aggressive with it for the rosin to actually start applying to the bow. So how I did that is I started at the bottom here, and then I started rubbing the rosin back and forth sort of aggressively until I started seeing like flake and scratch marks in the rosin. After that happened, I was able to just apply it like we did before, and it worked. Something else to keep in mind, and it's one of the only downsides of using a bow, is that the rosin will leave behind dust on your guitar, and it's sort of hard and sticky. And so you'll probably want to change your strings at some point after you do whatever you do with it. So let's talk about how to hold the cello bow next. So at the end of the cello bow here, you have what's called the frog, and then you have this, which is called the thumb leather, which is a little confusing because that's where you're going to be putting your index finger. So that goes right there. Then your middle finger and your ring finger are going to be grouped together, and they're going to go sort of right over the frog. And then your pinky is going to go somewhere back here. And then your thumb is going to go in this little indentation right here between the frog and the thumb leather. So not this indentation right here, but right here is where you want to be. you don't want to bend your thumb backwards like this. You want to have it sort of bent forward, if anything. And then it's balanced sort of that way. So this is the way Johnny does it. He holds it in the conventional way. And what he does is he holds the guitar as straight as possible, where the head of the guitar is like right next to his head. And then he holds his bow in the proper way. And then he plays from side to side like this. Now, admittedly, I didn't get the best results this way. It just felt really unstable and kind of shaky. I don't know if it's because I'm using a Les Paul, which is a really heavy guitar. His guitar might be lighter and thus more ergonomic to playing with a bow. So let me walk you through the way I cheated and did it. So instead of having it super straight, I had it to my side and I angled it sort of diagonally. And instead of holding it in the conventional way, what I did is I had my thumb and index fingers in the same spot. My middle finger and ring finger and my pinky was also close to the same spot, but instead I wrapped it and I grabbed it around the bow instead, like this. I'll do another angle so you guys can see. So now when I reach over, the end of the bow is just digging into the palm of my hand instead of being balanced like this with my pinky. And I reach over. Now when we play these notes in the song, we're playing the bottom two strings. Unlike a cello where all the strings are angled in a semicircle, obviously on the guitar, the strings are just going to be straight. So it's going to be hard to target individual strings without playing any of the other strings. So what you need to do is use another finger to mute out the other strings that you're not playing. So again, in this case, we're holding the bottom two strings on the 2nd fret. I'm using my 3rd finger and my pinky to play those 2 notes. And then I'm reaching over with my middle finger here to mute out the rest of the strings. So actually bowing the strings on the guitar is not rocket science. It's actually pretty easy. Your technique does not have to be perfect. You're basically just going to reach over and it should work. So just like with down and up strokes on the guitar, there's going to be a down bow and an up bow. A down bow is where we start near the frog at the bottom of the bow, and then we do a pulling motion. And then vice versa, an up bow is where we start near the tip of the bow, and then we do a pushing motion instead. So now let's do a quick exercise. We're going to hold the bottom 2 strings of our guitar on the 2nd fret with our 3rd and 4th fingers. And then we're gonna use our middle finger again to mute out the rest of the strings. And then we're just gonna bow 8th notes, starting with a down bow and then into up bows and then back and forth just like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's it. That was my lesson on how to use a cello bow with the guitar. I'm sure you cello players out there are cringing with my technique on the way I played, but hey, it worked. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.